Okay, in this video, I want to go over gradients inside of Illustrator. So I'm just going to focus on an overview of gradients. So let's begin by just doing this. First of all, where are the gradients tools? One, when we come into our toolbar, we can see right in the center here, we have a gradient. Now we can put gradients on our strokes both and on our fills. Just for this video, I'm going to put it just on the fill. Now, once you learn how to do it on the fill, it's easy to figure out to apply the same concepts and put it on to the stroke as well. Beautiful. So I have this gradient right here, and I can come on up and I can see that I have a gradient tool. Now, what I want to take a look at as well is if I come on in and I come to my swatches, so I come to Window, and I'm going to grab my swatches, and I come on into my library, I'm going to see that I have a gradients library, and I can come in here and I can say, oh, metals. Maybe I want to focus in on fruits and vegetables, so it really depends on what it is that I'm working with. Right now, I'm just going to stick with the metals one, and I can see that I have these different colors, the silvers, the coppers, the bronze. So here we go. I'm going to leave this one right here. And I'm going to come on in and I'm going to draw a shape. I have my gradient. Now, I can also come on in and I can grab my pencil, letter N for my shortcut. I can come on in, I can just create a shape, whatever that shape may look like. I can close it, and there I have it. Now, I have a lot of control on how these gradients fall onto these shapes. So right now, I just have a linear gradient. I also want to come in and I have a gradient window. So I'm going to come to Window to Gradient. I'm going to turn this one on. Now, when I turn on this gradient window and I have this image selected here, I can see that I'm seeing this gradient. So what I want to do is I could click on this and say, I want to change this to radial. Now it comes out from the center. Now, I could also come in here and I could say I want to add in another color. So I can click right onto this gradient slider. I can double click and I could choose more. Let's go a little bit darker. Okay, now I can work with how it's applied. I'll make this a little bit bigger, add in another color. Great. Now I can also come on in to this one right here. So we can start to see how things are moving along. Now, not so wild about this. I can even, work with the slider, move things around a little bit. There we have it. We have the idea. I can also, sometimes with these programs, there's several ways to do the same thing. I can also come in, grab my gradient slider, and look at how this is applied. So I can take this shape, I can make it bigger. So sometimes we could even have, right, it's running off of the side. I could bring it in, make it smaller. Now, I could grab the side and change the shape even a little bit more. I can also come right in on here and move it around. Look at how it's applied. So again, we can see that, just playing around here, we can see that these two are related, but when we apply it right on, we have a little bit more options and things that we can do with this. Okay, let's take a look at another one just for an overview. And sometimes this happens, see I ended up in isolation mode. When that happens, just hit escape to get out of there. Okay, so I'm going to just delete this. I'm going to bring on this guy. I'm going to take a look at this image. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And I'm going to look at how this is applied. Beautiful. Now I have this right here, but I'm going to skip over this. I'm going to go right in for my gradient. And I can come in and add. Okay, so now I've made this a little bit more dramatic. I can make this a little bit bigger. Pull this on over. Flip it around, move things around. I think you're getting the idea. Lots of options here, lots of options. I'm going to click off. Now I have this shape. Now I want to take a look at another one. Now this is what happens too. See how the default was just the gradient, but whatever is the last gradient that you worked on will be what's loaded in there. So I'm going to grab onto this one, and there are some of these pre-built ones. Let's stick to this one. And actually, I'm going to skip out of the metals, change of plans here, and I'm going to choose ice cream. Yum. Oh, actually, sorry, I wanted a gradient. I do like ice cream though. So I'm going to go to gradients, and let's choose the pastel gradients, and we can see that we have them right in here. I'm going to load this one right there. And I'm going to come in, and actually I'm not going to even work with, I'm going to grab a circle. Sometimes I like the circles a lot of times. So there we have it. Now, I'm going to work with these colors. Now let's say that I wanted to get rid of this blue. All I would do is I would drag it and I would drop it off. Now it's gone. Beautiful. All right, now I'm going to actually change up the colors. So I'm going to come on in here and I'm going to grab this gradient, and I can say, you know, I want to add another color. So I could double click. And add a color like so. Now, a lot of times what I do when I'm working before I get started is I'll actually add different colors to my swatches, right? Because a lot of times when you come in and you do the double click, you go right into your swatches, right? So again, I'll add these colors on in, and you know, you can always come in this way as well and choose a different color, grab your color guide out, add it in, whichever way it is that you want to do. Now, sometimes what happens though is when you come in and add a color, you know, it changes the whole thing. So again, what I do is I'll add them to my swatches. I just want to show you this real quick because this is a good thing to know how to do. I open up my swatches. Where are you, swatches? Window. And again, I can click right in here. And so I'll come in, deselect this, you know, and just start adding different colors into my swatches. So I could drag and drop it. You can even just come into the color guide and select different tints and work with it that way. Now this is a really good thing to think about too, working with the shades and the tints in the color guide, because when we work with gradients, many times, most times, right, it is the value that we're focusing in on. So we're looking at shades and tints of a color and how they work together. So for instance, let me drag this guy up too. Beautiful. I'm dragging and dropping them. So I'll do this one more time, and then I promise I'm going to end this video, and you can send me any questions you may have. So I'm going to start again. I like looking at this and experimenting with this with the circles. Okay, now what I could do too is I'm starting with this gradient right in here. Okay, beautiful. Now what I want to do instead, and I could just come in and do more of like a default gradient or whatever it is I'd like to do. I could also just put that gray one in. Here it is right in there. I'm going to start with this one. Okay, and now I'm going to click onto here. And again, where this is black, I'm going to go into my swatches. I'm going to make it blue. Okay, see how that changes the whole thing? I'm going to come on in. I'm going to add a color. And I'm going to start working the way that I saved these colors in here. I'm going to do one more. All right, there we have it. I think we're getting the idea. Okay, now let's say that I have this swatch and I like this swatch and I think, you know, I'm going to apply this to other things. I could save it. So this is how I save it. It's on my fill, and I click my save. I hit OK, and there I have it. I want to have it over here so I can use it again. Thanks so much for listening. That was an overview of the gradients.